Alex here with another Helix HX Stomp tip video, and in this one I want to talk about all-in-one presets and a couple of the tricks and workarounds I've found to make the most out of the limited number of blocks in the HX Stomp. We just get 6, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do with foot switch mode and parameter changes to get a lot of different sounds out of it. In my own terms, an all-in-one preset is something that you would use when you're playing with the HX Stomp and your guitar and plugging into a front of house system. That's it. No extra external pedals, no fancy preset switching or anything. We're just using one preset to cover a vast array of tones. So this video is going along to accompany a preset bundle that I just released on my website, and it's totally free. It's a sample pack, so we've got 2 presets in there, one for single coil guitars and one for humbuckers. I'll leave the link in the description. You'll scroll down to the bottom of the page and then click add to cart. When you go to checkout, use the coupon code FREE, F-R-E-E, and it'll reduce the price to $0. It's a weird workaround I have to do with my website. But that's how that works. That's how you can get this. And if you want to download it, you can follow along and see how everything's working all together. But basically, I just want to share what I've learned over the last couple of years using the HX Stomp, and I hope this video is going to be helpful to you. So checking out HX Edit now, the blank slate of this preset is very much just an all-purpose kind of rock, blues, fusion type sound. And this is made up of the divided by 13 FTR amp head combined with the 2x12 interstate cabinet, which is the Dr. Z model, and a U84 condenser microphone. A bit of early reflections dialed in there, which is like a room ambience. If I turn off the spring verb here, which is always on by the way, you might hear versus if we maxed it out. It kind of would simulate as if you had backed the microphone off the cabinet a little bit and got some of the room sound in there instead of with the mic right on. We're just getting the speaker volume. So I think that's a really useful control. You don't dial it up all the way to 100% necessarily, but just dial in a little bit and it gives it kind of a more of a spatial sound. Okay, and then we've also got a very mild compressor running at the start of the chain here. And this is with the mix set at 65%. If you're playing with this preset and you'd like a little bit more gain out of it, use the gain control in this compressor block. Like I said, it's always on. Or conversely, a little bit less gain. Play with that a little bit if you feel like you want to adjust the level of overdrive for it, if you want a cleaner or dirtier sound. So the blank slate here is made up of the always on, very slight compression there just to keep a little bit of sustain up, and then the amp and cabinet block obviously, and then an always on spring verb. So this leads me into my first tip for making the most out of the HX Stomp for all-in-one presets, and that is to make use of parameter changes in foot switch mode. You'll notice decay, pre-delay, high cut, and mix all change with footswitch 5, and I'll show you how to set this up now. So in HX Edit, I would definitely recommend editing on the computer, not on the device. It makes it a lot easier. We'd click on the verb block, we'd go to bypass controller assign here, and then let's say we're going to change the decay value. All right, so 6.5 to 7.6. When you click on the spring verb, what you would see now is bypass. We're going to change that because we don't want to unbypass it with footswitch 5. We want to set up the decay parameter change, and we'll assign it to footswitch 5. So the minimum decay, the minimum value here is what it'll be when the footswitch is not engaged. If footswitch 5 had a ring around it, a light, then the light would be off or it would be in the dim setting depending on what your global settings are. So we'll set the minimum value there to 6.5 and then the max to 7.6, and that ensures that these are all moving in the same direction at the same time. So yeah, works great. Alright, and now this really comes in handy if you're trying to save room. We've only got 6 blocks, right? And you don't want to waste any on an overdrive block if you can achieve this with the amp parameters. And you'll notice I have a bunch of different parameters here set up to footswitch 1, So in the amp block, we're changing drive 1 and 2 parameters, tone, cut, and presence. So when we hit foot switch 1, we're essentially switching channels in the amp. You could think about it that way. So with foot switch 1 not engaged, that is channel 1, the cleaner option. Hit that, we switch to channel 2, it's more overdriven. The tone is boosted to get more mid content in there. The cut is reduced to get a little bit more high end, and then the presence feeds in some upper harmonics with an anti-feedback loop. And then we're also changing the channel volume, so it maintains a consistent volume here between the two options, and the bias X control is changing. So let's just listen to the difference here. When you've got the master control maxed out here, you really get a lot of difference when you play with the sag, hum, ripple, bias, and bias X controls. And lately I've really been digging what you can do with the ripple effect. I know in the past on my channel I've said that I don't really like the sound of it. In this amp model, I particularly do enjoy it. So this is the more overdriven option. We're gonna play with the ripple effect now. Can you hear that kind of subharmonic frequency? If you've ever cranked up a non-master volume tube amp up to the maximum volume, you'll recognize this sound. But that's what the ripple is doing. I usually like to tune in as much hum as I can without it actually being noticeable. Right, we don't want the actual hum of the amp there, but when it's high enough that you can't hear it, it still is having a nice effect on the overdrive character. So that's what the hum control is for, a similar thing here. It'll probably be something that's a little bit hard to tell just over YouTube. So let's keep moving here. We're going to talk about the different effects now. Now in the parameter changes for the effects, this all makes sense in a second. We're bypassing the 70s chorus. We're turning that on and off with foot switch 2. However, we're changing parameters in the Elephant Man delay with foot switch 2 as well, even though that one's only being affected and turned on and off with foot switch 3. Let's talk about that in a second after I explain why I'm using foot switch mode. Now, just to quickly give you a rundown of why I like to use stomp switch mode on these smaller Helix units as opposed to snapshot. Imagine you're in snapshot mode. You've got 5 different sounds. That's it, right? Foot switch 1, snapshot 2, 3, 4, 5. In snapshot mode, you've just got 5 different sounds. That's it. Now, in stomp switch mode, we can have any combination of these patches, and I've talked about this in a previous video, so just real quick, I'll go through. We call it the blank slate of the preset with no foot switches engaged. This is just a basic dry tone on this preset anyway. So that's 1 sound. All right, then we press foot switch 1. That's 2 sounds. Just foot switch 2, so nothing else pressed. Just foot switch 3, 4, and 5 by itself. We get 6 sounds total now. And now we can start doing combinations. So 1 and 2 together. 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5. 2 and 3, 2 and 4, 2 and 5, 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. You can do combinations of 3 foot switches, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 4, 1, 2, 5, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 5, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 5, and I might be missing something else here. But anyway, I totaled it up the other day, and you actually get up to 27 different combinations in foot switch mode with an external controller versus snapshot mode where you just get 5. So there's a quick rundown, and this is the basis of my all-in-one presets, and I think this hopefully will make a lot of sense to you and why you might choose to build your presets in stomp switch mode instead of snapshot. So talking about the effects in this preset now, foot switch 2 is set up to engage the 70s chorus block, which is a Boss CE1 clone, and this is just set up in vibrato mode. So we're getting a standard kind of vibrato effect. Foot switch 3 is going to be changing vibrato, and it's going to switch it into chorus mode here, so we'll also get a chorus effect when we combine foot switch 2 and 3. Alright, so we're in chorus mode now. The stereo spread is increased a lot. The stereo mode is switched from true, which is jumping left and right, to classic, which is wet sound, dry sound, and then the mix has dropped a lot too. So we just have a standard chorus sound. Yeah, so that's one way that you can get vibrato and chorus sounds just out of one foot switch, one block here. So moving on to the delay, Elephant Man. This is a Bucket Brigade style delay modeled after the Electro Harmonix Memory Man. So that whole delay, it's just a very warm sounding Bucket Brigade design with modulation just on the repeats. And you can switch between chorus and vibrato modes. It's in vibrato right now. And if we combined foot switch 2 and 3, just like before, this is going to switch into chorus mode. Which is a little bit more of a modulated sound than the vibrato. The vibrato is more straightforward, I think. Versus chorus. On the actual Memory Man units, this wouldn't be depth, it would be called just like modulation or something. And in vibrato mode, it changes the speed of the vibrato. In chorus mode, it changes the depth. So it very much different delay tones here. And this is just foot switch 3, and you can switch between the two different tones by combining it with foot switch 2. Now moving on to the last part about this, this is just a basic tremolo that I've assigned to foot switch 4. In pretty much all my presets, I like to make the most essential effects on foot switch 1, 2, and 3, so that if you're not using an external controller, that you're not really missing out on anything too essential. But I had the extra block and I have the extra foot switch, so I figured I'd throw something in here. This is a 60s bias tremolo effect that is set to vibrato mode, which kind of gives it the Magnetone style, or a little bit between Magnetone and Fender style tremolo or vibrato, whatever you want to call it. So this would be simulating the change in bias of a true tube tremolo. That's what this block is anyway. So definitely a lot of different stuff we can achieve just in one preset here with all these parameter changes. I hope this was a useful video for you. If you enjoyed it, if you learned something, make sure you share it with a friend and maybe consider subscribing to the channel. I do these Helix tip videos all the time, and chances are there'll be something else on the channel already or in the future that might be interesting to you as well. So stay tuned for future videos from me. Presets are on my website at all times. If you haven't downloaded this one yet, go check it out. It's in the description. And I also put together this sample pack just to kind of advertise a lot of the other packs that I've put together over the last few months. Everything was tested and refined on professional level front of house systems, FR speakers, studio monitors, and just to kind of like cover all the bases. So I think hopefully it should work well on your own device at home. Anyway, thanks for sharing your time with me, and I'll see you in the next video.